Hi, everyone, and welcome to a WordStream webinar. We're here to go back to PPC school. 'Tis the season, even though it looks a little different this year for a lot of folks. We're really excited about this topic. It's been a great success in the past, and these brilliant ladies have just elevated it and ramped it up for this year. So how to get an A+ in PPC using lessons learned in 2020 to ace Google and Facebook ads next year, because 2020 was nothing short of unique. But before we get into the content, let me do a little bit of an introduction. So a lot of you on the line may have found WordStream through our content, our free blog. We have a lot of free tools that help you audit your performance on Google and Facebook if you're already advertising. And then we also have a lot of experts in the field that can help you figure out the best strategy for you if you're not quite there yet. So one of the cool things that we have as a new offer, in addition to the software that lets you manage your Google, Bing, or Facebook ads on your own, is a partnership with Local IQ. And so Local IQ is also a respected business in the space. And what we've done is partnered with them to offer you a different type of offer for anyone who maybe just like doesn't have the bandwidth. Maybe you're going to take this webinar and be like, whoa, that's so much. How can I do this all on my own? Partner with Local IQ and let us help you. Let us take Google or Facebook ads right off your plate completely. We'll manage it for you. We'll come up with the best strategy to help you grow your business. And that's a really exciting new offer for us on the table right now. And then last but not least, we've also got we are recording today's webinar, so don't even worry about that. You will get the slide deck, the recording after the live event, right to your inbox with some fun new additional assets actually that we're excited to share with you all. We have a workbook that we have that's going to be kind of a summary of everything we went over today, plus some, which is really exciting. And then also, please submit your questions today. So submit your questions it's okay. We want this to be interactive. We've got some polls in there for you, and we hope that this is fun and exciting and useful for you. So feel free to submit your questions today, and we'll be sure to get to them. And so with that, I will pass it off for some intros of Susie and Caitlin.
Awesome. All right, guys, I do apologize. Looks like my internet is just having a little bit of a difficult moment. However, that's kind of like the work from home mentality that we've had a lot lately. Again, like as you can see behind me, I'm like living around boxes. I'm currently moving, so it's fine. But let me introduce myself. So my name's Caitlin. I'm a senior onboarding specialist here at WordStream. Really what I do, like I'm here to help all new clients navigate through the platform. I'm here to set you up for success as well. And also, if you have seen me in past webinars before, I am also a huge guinea pig enthusiast. Before I haven't showed too many pictures, but I'm going to give you like a little glimpse of Tipper. He is very much around. If you hear him in the background, it's probably because he's going to yell at me for not giving him the entirety of his lunch, but that's okay. He'll be a good boy. Awesome. I'm gonna actually do this as well. I'm sorry, guys, but my screen disappeared. So, all right, now on to Susie.
All right, my name is Susie, and I swear I just do these webinars so I can see more pictures of Caitlin's guinea pigs because they're so cute. No, but I'm a digital marketing consultant here at WordStream, and I consult a variety of clients on a wide diversity of PPC topics and strategies, whether it's small tweaks and changes down to the account structure level of keywords, or going all the way big picture with cross-platform strategies with Microsoft, Facebook, and Google. I'm kind of the one-stop shop to kind of help my clients through that. Now, in my opinion, this is a very exciting time of year because pumpkin spice flavored everything comes out, which I'm a huge fan of. I've even got some pumpkin ice cream in my freezer right now as we speak. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Oh, that's a hot take, Susie. Some people are apple fans, some people are pumpkin fans, some people are even like the candy corn fans too. So be careful.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Okay.
All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn my cam off just so we can all just focus on the content here.
Totally.
All
right.
So let me do that as well.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Wonderful. So we've split our presentation between two platforms today, Google and Facebook. I'm going to be covering the Google side of things, and today my topics are going to be demystifying the differences between manual and automatic bidding, 2 outdated structure strategies we need to stop using in 2021, the metrics that replace average position and why they're actually better, and tackling the anatomy between expanded text ads and also responsive search ads.
And I'm going to be your Facebook gal throughout this webinar as well. And Facebook will have a little bit of a different twist to it. So the first thing, we know them. Some of you may have some strong feelings about them, but what's the deal with special ads categories? Also, it's time to branch out. Stop being stuck in your ways. So I'm going to show you a couple of new strategies and maybe even like different areas within Facebook that you can start to target. And especially within this year, now is really the time to focus on your ad copy. That's one element that we can control, so it's time to give it a little bit of love. And also, we're going to close it out with covering why video ads are king. However, we do like a similar theme every year, really because it's like, 'tis the season, people are going back to school. There might be like a hybrid approach going on right now across the world. Like maybe your kids are going back to school in like like in their actual building, maybe they're staying home. However, we want to make sure that we are kind of addressing the elephant in the room. This has definitely been a very unique year that Amanda hinted at the beginning. So we want to address like how COVID especially impacted like specific networks that you guys are currently advertising on. Maybe you guys haven't really thought about advertising on these networks as well, and it can be like a tricky area to go through and like figure out if maybe is now the right time. So we're gonna actually break down like how COVID has actually impacted specific networks and maybe explaining like why now is the time to get started as well. So let's just kick things off with Facebook. So to keep it short, this is a time that we never thought we would experience. And we need to make sure that we're staying agile and respond to the market. Now, Facebook advertising is no different, but we experienced some very interesting numbers at the very beginning, especially during Q1 of this year when the crisis hit. The number of Facebook users increased. And think about it this way, everyone is home and practicing social distancing. But we as human beings are social animals, and we need to make sure that we're getting that connection source from somewhere. So why not Facebook and Instagram? And not even just these social networks, but other ones like Twitter and LinkedIn and TikTok. And not even just the general like newsfeed, like there's like other areas as well. People are interacting with stories and Messenger and live videos now more than ever. But here's where it got interesting at the beginning of the year. Although the average number of users on Facebook increased, the amount of advertising dollars began to decrease due to the economic impacts and uncertainty of the world around us. So with a smaller pool of competitors who are advertising and a larger number of people who are on the Facebook network, we're actually noticing a reduction in certain KPIs. And also, we're noticing now that like certain networks are starting to gain back momentum as well. So if you ever thought about giving Facebook advertising a try, now is the time to do it.
Yeah, so we see similar types of trends like Caitlin noticed in Facebook when we look over at search engine advertising during COVID as well. When the outbreak began, it felt like everything came to a standstill, including search traffic and advertising. However, we can see from this graph we created over at WordStream that after the initial COVID freeze, there was actually an uptick in conversions coming from paid search off of Google, which I'll be focusing on today, and Bing, which we'll also quickly touch on today. The other impact COVID had was another positive one as well, as we just saw this past July with Google officially releasing free ad credits being automatically applied to small and medium-sized business ad accounts. This is so exciting because not only are we motivated to keep on keeping on with our advertising through the pandemic, but we also have a bit of freedom to get more adventurous with strategy because we can afford it now with the free ad credits.
Yeah, that was an awesome move by Google. I was really happy to see that they did that.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and kick things off with our first lesson of the day, which is an age-old question that I face all the time. I know Caitlin faces all the time too, and you probably ask yourself as well, is how do I know which type of bidding strategy is right for me on Google? So before we even dive into choosing a strategy, let's evaluate our options. I'm big into weighing the pros and cons of things, so I created this image to help visualize the differences between manual and automatic, and also what's the same between the two. With manual on the left, We know we'll have more control because we are setting a bid for each individual keyword on our own or manually. So it's a great way to grab the reins over your account if you're tight on budget. Also allows for consistent tweaking based on your own judgments. However, you can imagine how time consuming this can get. And if you don't put in the time like that to keep an eye on it and continuously tweak your bids, as I mentioned, then it can definitely go south. While on the right side, we see that there's several other strategy options that live under the umbrella of automatic. It's nice to have a variety of bidding automation depending on your goals, and the fact that Google is just taking your budget and running with it to just pick your bids for you definitely saves time. Leveraging that Google machine learning can lead to tailored bids that can work best without costing you time out of your busy schedule. They are, however, known to historically spend at a higher rate. And additionally, since Google is using its machine learning, there's also an algorithmic learning period where Google takes time to test out bids and see which is best before you really start to see success. Overall, though, the choice is yours, and you can make these campaign level changes in both WordStream or Google Ads. And also, one last side note is it's totally normal, totally fine to have strategies vary from campaign to campaign depending on your goals. And you can always play around with bid adjustments either way. We'll explore this more next. Now that we've weighed the pros and cons of each bidding strategy structure, you can start to choose your bidding strategy based on what's a priority to you, as well as addressing the state of your account and historical data. Meaning if you're tight on budget and you want more control, go for manual. If you're tight on time or have no clue where to even start when it comes to your max CPC, you could try out automatic. Essentially, you want to ask yourself, how much control do I want? Which can at least lead you to one of the two umbrellas of manual or automatic. Automatic will always need a bit of historical data and patience with the learning period. So essentially, if you want to make the switch to automatic, really assess your account. A good metaphor Caitlin and I like to use when thinking about this strategy is don't dive into a pool of water if you don't know how to swim. Meaning don't go all in one type of strategy if you're not totally comfortable with managing it yet. Long story short, there is no secret sauce, but it's more about knowing what's right for you. One thing that not a lot of people know that you can do is you can control how much money you can toss towards certain audience characteristics. This is something we call bid adjustments. For example, if I know the majority of my conversions come from mobile users, I'm offering Google, say, a max CPC of $2 normally. I could change that to automatically offer Google a little bit more whenever I'm getting a click from a mobile user. This is another way to regain control of your bidding because you can pick and choose instances when you'll want to bid more or less. And while these are applicable to both automatic and manual strategies, they really are most helpful with manual bidding. Because with automatic, say you're using a max conversion strategy, you can still bid higher on that example with devices that I just said, but Google is still going to say, okay, cool, that's great that you want to adjust your bid higher, but I'm still going to adjust your bid to get you the most conversions anyway. However, bid adjustments are also the only way you can completely exclude a characteristic like device, regardless of strategy. I'll explain this some more next. Here's a few real life examples of what setting up these bid adjustments would look like. Depending on bidding adjustments, depending on the one you want to choose, you go ahead into the section of the campaign level of Google and edit the bid adjust column as I did in this image here. For example, with this ad schedule adjustment, maybe I get the most conversions on Wednesday. So therefore, I'm willing to throw a bit more money to my bids during that day, so I'm all that much more guaranteed to show in a good position since I know I'm more likely to get a conversion, or in other words, a higher return.
Gotta love those Wednesday conversions.
Here's a few more common examples. You could also apply adjustments negatively instead of the example of positive in the last side. In the top image, let's say I know I'll always get a lower return off a certain county of all the counties I target in Wisconsin. I could then decrease my bid for that specific county, and as we can see, I'll be paying $1 less for clicks from that area since I know I'll be less likely to convert there. In the bottom example with the device bid adjustments, let's say I have an older demographic where I consistently see my users are coming from tablets and desktop. So maybe I want to completely get rid of mobile devices. I can do so by decreasing by 100%, so I'm no longer bidding on queries coming from mobile phones, which is a great way for me to limit any excess or wasted spend on my tight budget. The main point I want to drive home that Caitlin and I will keep going back to is that, frankly, we've been through a lot in 2020. Now is the time to take a good, hard look at your account and your goals, and then take your bidding strategy and adjustments from there. A saying I like to remind myself when it comes to PPC and in life in general is change is the only constant. And since we're already facing a lot of change, we can embrace this as an opportunity to try out a different bidding strategy or dip our toes into bid adjustments as well. It's okay to be a little selfish and go back to square one of your PPC priorities and what you feel is realistically attainable when it comes to bid management. When you approach this strategy in this way, identifying the right strategy will be like plucking flowers from a field. So happy picking.
Oh, Susie, that was beautiful.
I don't want summer to end.
Mhm. And now going to the angsty side of the webinar. So I speak with hundreds of clients in different industries, positions, and also timeframes in their digital marketing journey. Now, not all of them are on Facebook just yet, but it is my job and also my pleasure to help them get started. However, one major pushback I get about Facebook is that certain industries may not do as well, which is when the discussion about special ads categories comes into play. So this one, my Facebook lesson is special ads categories. Let's go through it together. But first, what are special ads categories? Special ads categories are restrictions set on specific industries that limit audiences and demographics that could traditionally be used to target their intended audience. They were established by Facebook back in 2019, but began strictly enforcing them this year, and of course, in the heat of the COVID pandemic. These industries include credit, housing, as well as employment. And also, like, don't get me wrong, the root of Facebook's decisions really came at a good one. They wanted to limit discrimination based on certain types of targeting, like age, location, or gender. Think about it this way. Let's say if you were a recruiting company and was hired by a business to recruit software engineers, you shouldn't specifically target just men to fill this role. However, this change definitely affected hundreds of thousands of advertisers and has made it much harder to show our ads to the right people, while also making sure we are advertising the correct way. So what did Facebook give us? They introduced special ads audiences. Now, before you think, wow, this girl's really grasping at straws to make us in like the special ads category feel better, I'm going to say, don't worry. I have firsthand seen the effects this targeting restriction has done. I consider these special ads audience to almost be like the lookalikes of the special ads category and can be used to bring in an audience that one would potentially house the intended audience inside of them and also be like follow the restrictions that Facebook has in place. So your ads have a similar chance or a smaller chance of getting disapproved. Now, these lookalike-esque audiences can be found in the audience manager section of Facebook and are actually technically a custom audience that you can build. These lookalikes will come from your own data source, like a website visitor or a page fan list, but we'll make them like special ads category friendly. And you don't have many options to modify this audience, but at least it gets you started off on the right foot. And due to all of these restrictions, now is the time more than ever to make sure we have clear, concise ad copy. We have control over the messaging still, even though we have a much broader audience than what we intended or what we had before. And spoiler alert, I will dive into this a little bit more later on in the webinar. But now is the time to think outside the box and include text, pictures, and strategies we didn't really think of before. Take Indeed, a widely known brand that helps companies and job seekers find their perfect applicant or even their next career step. Now, due to them being in the employment industry, they were largely affected by the special ads category introduction and had to start thinking outside the box. They started putting a text apply CTA in their above image text that encourages people to apply through their phone, which then gets them off of the Facebook platform. Indeed could also swap out the photos to meet the theme or position of the company that they are recruiting for. However, Indeed isn't immune to Facebook's strict policies though, even they're a big guy in the industry, as you see here on the right. Now, here's something else, like a different angle you can also take. This can also be the time when you really make it clear to people why they shouldn't click or shouldn't interact with your ad. And even though like a lot of like our goals like have people interact and have, drive traffic to the website, if we can make it very clear that we don't want certain people engaging with it, that can give you a step up as well. And also get less irrelevant traffic to your website, applying to jobs, maybe looking at like your housing listings. So again, be very, very clear with what you are portraying on your ads themselves. The moral of the story with special ads categories, Special ads category advertising is tougher more than ever, but we need to work with what we still have and utilize special ads audiences and getting picky with our ad copy. It won't be easy, but if we can start to establish our own best practices with the functionality that they have given us, it could work wonders for us in the future, especially with Google announcing that they will also be having special restrictions, like special ads category restrictions in the future as well. And with Google announcing that, probably the next step is going to be big as well.
You're really making lemonade out of lemons, Caitlin.
I'm trying, really
Special
trying.
ad categories. No, that's awesome. All right, before we jump into our second lesson, I want to start getting you guys a little bit more engaged. So we're going to open it up for a quick poll, and I'll hand it over to Amanda to get that going.
Great, yeah, so everyone in the audience should see it up on their screen. We're curious what the audience thinks about how many keywords should be in each ad group. We've got a couple different options down there, and we want to know what you all have to say. So I'll let the answers roll in right now. We've got a couple people voting. What do you, Susie and Caitlin, what do you think people will answer?
Well, it's been changing. Like in the past, like couple years since I've been in the industry, it definitely has hopped around. I think back in the day, like we did see a lot of people with the 50 plus, like putting everything in an ad group and kind of seeing how it goes. But then also, and Susie will hint to this soon, we've also seen a lot of people put way too little keywords in there as well. So I think it's going to be probably the polar opposites, either the first one or the last one.
Ooh, what could we
Hot
see?
take.
We've got about 60% of the audience has voted. A couple people chiming in the chat, 50, 10 to 20. So why don't I close the poll now that we've got more than half of the results in there and share the results. So it looks like the majority of our audience says 5 to 10, but a close second was 10 to 20. That was 38% say 5 to 10, and 34% of our audience says 10 to 20.
Wow, those results are spread out like a pancake. I mean,
yeah.
Everyone's kind of has a different opinion. Interesting.
Yeah, thank you for proving me wrong, folks. I love that.
Yeah, thanks for participating, guys. That was great. All right, well, listen, we're all in the same webinar here, so I consider us all friends, and friends don't let friends use old account structure strategies. So that's what we're going to talk about next for this Google lesson. I won't divulge the answer just yet into what the true answer to our poll will be, but you're about to find out. I'll keep you guys on your toes here. But in the meantime, here's the two structure strategies that I definitely want to see us retire in 2021. The first being single keyword ad groups, so that kind of gives you a hint, or SCAGs as I call them. And the second being, gasp, bid stacking, which I know some of you might still be doing. Don't panic. We're going to talk through, why it's an older strategy, how it could still work, but why you should really try and move away from it. All right. Going off of our poll, let's address single keyword ad groups, or SCAG, as I'll refer to them first. So SCAGs are ad groups with only one keyword in it. This was believed to improve accounts performance and quality score by sounding more specific. That sounds great, right? Not so much. You may think having one specific keyword in your ad group that's also in the ad would help with your quality score, but since ad relevancy, it weighs into your score slightly less than expected click-through rate and landing page experience, it's not really necessary, especially since there's other ways to keep your ads relevant. Additionally, this can cause an absurd amount of ad groups, making your campaigns hard to navigate and increasing your management time and difficulty. So what do we do instead? The best practices we recommend are no more than 10 to 20 keywords in an ad group. So you have some wiggle room to increase your reach by having a variety of keywords to match up to queries. And additionally, you'll want no more than 10 ad groups per campaign to keep things manageable. If you're on this strategy, this doesn't have to be an overnight change, right? But something you can do slowly but surely. Think goodbye SCAGs and hello stags. Single themed ad groups, where ad groups are arranged by themes and have few keywords and ads that fit into that same theme umbrella accordingly.
I'll definitely point this out as well. Back in the day, I actually used to be a consultant, similar to what Susie did, and I was talking more regularly to like the UK clientele. And I don't know what it is over there across the pond, but you guys seem to love your skags. I don't know if it's like a trendy topic at conferences, but definitely gonna point that out. Definitely a strategy to retire, and I am a huge fan of those stags, the single themed ad groups instead.
Yeah, this is definitely one we see a lot.
Mhm.
All right, great. So the second one, bid stacking, right? So, okay, now this is sort of a weird one because bid stacking still can be done, but more often than not, Caitlin and I have sadly seen this done wrong, which is why it's on here. Bid stacking is when you have the same keyword within an ad group multiple times on different match types. But what people forget is the point of bid stacking is to eventually wean yourself off of it. You're trying different match types on the same keyword to see which one performs the best. So at surface level, bid stacking doesn't seem so bad. But since the point of this webinar is to stay on the up and up with emerging Google trends this year, we know Google has changed how we should view match types as they aren't quite as segmented or different anymore. Actually, match types are quite similar to each other due to a rule of close variance, where Google will see through any plurals or misspellings or similar words, so you'll still show for relevant queries regardless of your actual keyword and match type. Think lawn mowing versus grass cutting for a landscaping business query. That would be considered a close variant. So this wouldn't really improve the quality of queries through your match types, but more through your overall structure. Although also you can tell, I know as I mentioned before, and I'll keep saying this, I hate when there's too much going on in an account and you don't even know where to look. The bid stacking methodology allows for an unnecessary amount of keywords in your ad group, making management tough and risking wasted spend. So the solution to this is to not only have 10 to 20 keywords per ad group, as I mentioned before, but also making sure that these are all different keywords. Like I said, you can still try bid stacking if you want at first a little bit to try out different match types, but eventually try and stick with one or two. Uh-oh, extra, read all about it. Looks like we have some breaking news, you guys. Let's see what that is. All right. Now that we're on the topic of out with the in and old with the new when it comes to Google, did you guys hear this news? Google has just recently announced it has changed the search terms report to essentially only show a highlight reel of queries you showed up for that were essentially most popular for you. This makes my past points even more relatable because we're no longer going to be able to rely on search terms to quickly add in those long-tailed keywords and those one-off negatives. Every penny is going to count since we won't get that full picture. So your structure, if it's more sound and up to date, you won't have to worry about more of these irrelevant terms coming through as much because you're not going to necessarily be able to know right away.
I don't know what it is about Google making these changes around September time too, but my goodness.
Yeah, this
That
is like
was a
the
crazy
third
one.
one or something with it. Crazy.
Awesome. All right. So let's chat about Facebook. We've said this multiple times. I could probably like if I got $1 for every time we said that this year is unique, I'd be a very rich lady. But now is the time to branch out. And let me get into that. So I used to be a consultant back in the day, like I mentioned before, on the customer success team. And when I switched to onboarding, I did make sure, though, to keep a call with my clients to stay fresh in the world of paid advertising because, as you know, there's a new change every single day, as you're noticing with Google lately. Now, I have a client in the wedding industry who absolutely does amazing, but with only one pitfall. They are extremely stuck in their ways. A buzzword that I hear a fair amount lately is like remarketing. And although remarketing is a super strong strategy in the world of Facebook, it doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. I'm talking to you guys in the special ads categories. By putting all of your eggs in one basket, you're essentially narrowing yourself to a single piece of your Facebook marketing pie. So, in a year where the data has shown that more people, more than ever, are using Facebook to connect with others while they socially distance, now is the time to use this power platform for all that it's got available. And we're actually going to start off at the Facebook level. So, whenever you say Facebook, you might just be thinking of like the general newsfeed. However, in the world of advertising, Facebook owns so many different entities that if you're thinking that you just want to advertise on Facebook, you're actually missing opportunity with other platforms as well. So think of Instagram. Facebook owns Instagram. Think of Messenger. think of Facebook Marketplace for you e-com folks. Think of those like super cool stories. And I like, Susie, maybe you're the same way as well. I love Instagram stories. And when I see a good ad on an Instagram story, I'm like, yes, this is definitely targeting me at this point.
Yep.
However, yeah, there we go. However, there's also like one other little entity that's popping up here now, which definitely has a hot take in the market, Instagram Reels. So again, if you think that you are just gonna like focus on Facebook, definitely like think not like try a different area of the Facebook network because each of them kind of behaves a little bit differently as well. Take Instagram as an example. So if you have a business Instagram account and have linked it to your business page, you probably have been opting into Instagram ads without even knowing it. However, Instagram works a little different than Facebook, and it has its own set of demographics that use this platform more as well. A study by Statista as of August of 2020, 33.2% of US Instagram users were between the age of 25 and 34 years old. And the second largest group were between 18 and 24-year-olds with a 22.9% share. And here's the thing, age isn't the only factor. More than 56% of Instagram audiences in the United States are female. So if you own like a boutique like dress shop that maybe targets like younger women, this could be a great area for you to maybe test and start to test. As well as if you're noticing that Instagram is like a really great platform for you to show your ads on, instead of showing up on all the placements, maybe it's time to have an Instagram only campaign or test it out with like an Instagram only ad set. Because if you know that it's a younger demographic, maybe it's time to have catered ads towards them as well. So if I'm just like scrolling on the Facebook timeline, that's one thing. Maybe I'm in a different mode. If I'm on Instagram, maybe I'm more in like a mode of like sharing pictures and seeing what my friends are up to, maybe seeing their style or any type of other like people I follow. Instagram could be a great way to have your ads fit in the right place. But then branching off of that as well, it's time to also talk about how you can use each area and each goal of your campaigns to really nurture people through the funnel. And if you've seen any WordStream webinars in the past, you've probably stumbled upon this graphic as well. So I always like to bring it back up. So whenever you're figuring out the type of campaign to create, I do see a lot of people say, okay, like I'm always going to focus on conversion-based campaigns, or I'm focused more on lead gen, so I'm always going to have a lead gen campaign. However, there's so many different goals within the world of Facebook that you can have a different campaign type to different areas as well of the funnel so that you can try and bring people through it and not just show like a random ad here and there or maybe just a remarketing ad. You can utilize Facebook for brand awareness, or for all you e-com folks, maybe it's time to use like the catalog sale one instead of just using traditional remarketing. So it's a great way, like something that I really want to make sure we hammer home is now is the year to try something new. It's time to branch out. 2021, we don't really know what's going to happen. We don't know, what's going to happen tomorrow versus 3 months versus 2 years from now. So if we can start testing out new strategies with this like increased pool of people who are utilizing the Facebook networks, we could see some like unique results within 2021 and maybe even like a different game plan for kind of, blending Google and Facebook together as well.
Caitlin, you're making me hungry thinking about my pumpkin ice cream in the freezer now that I saw that graphic. All right. So for our lesson 3, it's been a year without average position. Who is average position? Who is she? We don't know her. She's been gone for a while. And we're going to talk about what average position was and what replaced it. So average position was a metric removed by Google in late 2019, early 2020, and it was instead replaced by 2 metrics we'll discuss on the next couple slides, top impression rate and absolute top impression rate. We remember that average position was judged on a scale of 1, 2, or 3, and so on. So your ad could be in position 1, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was at the top. In fact, it could have been at the bottom of the page or even on page 2. Because with average position, it was just a matter of what number ad you were on the page, regardless of where and regardless of organic results. Overall, a major con of average position is that we don't really know where on the page we were showing up.
It's crazy that it's been gone a full year now too. It's like I don't even miss it.
We don't miss it at all. So the first metric that replaced average position is absolute top impression rate, meaning out of all the times your ads are showing up, what percentage of the time were you the very first result or the very first ad on there? So we can see in this example here, all those ads highlighted, they're the first ads that are holding an absolute top position. And then the next metric that replaced average position is top impression rate, which is absolute top impression rates. Think of it as its little sister, where out of all the times you're showing up, what percentage of the time were you not the first result, but at least still above organic results? Think ad position 2, 3, 4, and so on. So we can see again in this graphic here, those highlighted ads, while they're not the first position, they still hold top impression rate, being in the top position. But you may ask, Susie, why is this so important for me to know? Well, I will be honest, average positions sucked. Again, we didn't know where we were on the page, and we also never knew if our position related to any other ads on the page. We see here we can understand whether we're absolute top or top, but also if I get those position only part of the time, the rest of my impression share, I know I'm not top and could be mixed in below organic results along with any other ads. Overall, a key takeaway I want to get across with this tip is, while we no longer have average position in 2021, top and absolute top impression rate are just new and improved versions of this metric that we definitely want to not only be familiarized with, but also incorporate frequently into our account checkups. We can see from this image that these two metrics reveal a lot more about where we are on the page from a more competitive angle. Okay, so we can kind of see with the green here being the absolute top, which is definitely a tougher spot to dominate, but the blue falling still above those organic results. So I'll be able to say, okay, am I in the top position? Okay, I know somebody still got the very first position because I'm not absolute top, and so on. Okay.
Perfect. All right, so this is my favorite section of the webinar. And if you've seen any of my other webinars in the past, you probably know that I love to give a shout out to the best ads that I've seen throughout the year. Now, this webinar will be no different. I'm going to show a couple different ads though that I like, but here is the main lesson that I've learned throughout. So what's the point that I'm going to drive home with this one? Now is the time to try out the ad copy that you have previously, that maybe you've previously thought of before, maybe you haven't really, maybe you haven't like utilized just yet, but now is the time to take those risks. And here's the thing, whether you believe it or not, ads resonate with your audience. I mean, even just like close your eyes for just one moment and think of the perfect ad that maybe you have or maybe like your favorite ad that maybe you have seen like throughout your time, like maybe watching certain media. Like whenever I close my eyes, I think of like the Doritos commercial from the Super Bowl, like if that's a good example. And Susie, you probably like if you close your eyes, you probably think of like an ad that maybe has resonated with you in the past.
Oh yeah, thinking of a few.
Yep. And if you really focus on making unique and appealing ad copy, you have the chance to not only stand out from others in the market, but also establish brand loyalty, which is worth its weight in gold. But Caitlin, what do you mean by this? Consumers see thousands of different ads a year. I mean, you even said that you remember the Doritos commercial off the top of your head. Well, and also, like, do people actually know the difference between a good and a bad ad? Well, yes, and I'm going to say that, and till I go to my grave, like, people know a good ad from a bad one, and they will let you know if it's a bad ad as well. And it also didn't take me getting into this industry for me to realize this as well. Take the above ad here for, I believe it's called Lumi, a deodorant brand that appeals to both women and men, especially in this late summer heat that we've been experiencing in Boston. Susie's talking about ice cream, which I'm definitely jealous of right now. We're both in the Boston heat right now, probably in apartments that, ACs kind of work half the time. But, think about other deodorant brands that have advertised to you in the past, like Old Spice is a great example. Sometimes their commercials or advertisements can be a little bit outlandish, but you do remember them. And here's the thing about Lumi. When I saw these ads, I was sucked in. I had to watch them because not only were they appealing, but they spoke to me as a person who is kind of in this like late summer heat wave. Here's the thing. The proof is in the pudding. People were commenting on the ad, literally saying that because of this ad, people wanted to buy it. They were shouting out the marketing team, which, I mean, Amanda, Susie, we don't get too often. Like, this is great. This is like, give us like a nice little pat
No.
on the back when we see things
So
like
fun.
this. Yeah. Like, and not only that, but like Lumi took this as an opportunity to start to engage their audiences as well. Because every time they replied, as you can see here, like people were like reacting to each of the comments, but also reacting to the replies as well, which can be even better for your ad and also start to establish that like that really valuable brand loyalty that we mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And now's also the time to even discuss about switching up your messaging. So, I mean, again, I'm going to get another dollar. This is a very unique time in our lives right now. And we have to make sure that we are adjusting our ad copy to speak to the times. Zipcar used to have a bunch of ads that like had a bunch of people in the car and they're going on vacations. They're talking about rental cars or being able to like go anywhere. Well, we're kind of not in this time anymore. However, as someone who is in the heat of Boston, I probably want to escape the city. So Zipcar kind of like switched their messaging. They're not showing people in large groups. They're really curating the ads to align with the customer journey. Like I've been like looking at ways to maybe escape the city for a weekend. Zipcar kind of stepped in at the right time. And also like they're telling a story in a way. So it's not just booking a car, but maybe it's time to also like reconnect with loved ones in like a very like safe setting as well.
All right, before we dive into my last lesson of the day, I want to get you guys engaged again, and we're going to do one more poll to keep you guys interested and interacting with us. So I'm dying to know, how many ads should you have per ad group? So I'll let
Time to wake
Amanda
up.
kind of run this from here.
Tell us
Yeah,
what you think. The poll's
checking in
live.
to make sure, making sure you're all awake.
No snoozing at this back to school session.
No way.
Or detention.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We've only got 5% of the vote in, so keep it coming.
Please, we need to know.
Oh, there's a clear winner happening right now, which I won't give away yet, but
Ooh,
it
the
is
suspense is killing
wildly
me.
ahead.
Wait, the right answer, 50 plus, isn't an option? I thought that's not what it is. I'll have to rework my lesson.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got about 60% of the audience voted, so I'll keep it the same as the last one and close down the poll now and share the results.
Let's see it.
2 to 5 ads was the winner by a long shot. 73% of the people that voted said 2 to 5. And the next one, 2 to 10. So similar, but 73% at that 2 to 5 is a clear winner.
Wow.
Ah, okay, interesting. All right, well, we'll kind of we're gonna go back to that. So keep that in mind. I like to keep you guys on your toes. I won't divulge the right answer yet, but you're about to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
All right, so time for kind of a final showdown with Google, ETAs versus RSAs here. So we're going to jump into what both of those are, what's the difference, and why you kind of want both. So as you already know, and when I was talking about bidding strategies, I like to visualize the differences and similarities between, two things that I'm comparing here. So I kind of laid out the anatomies of expanded text ads and our responsive search ads here, which I'll reference to as ETAs and RSAs. And as we can see, not a huge difference between the two. They both still have that one final landing page URL. They both have that one display path, and they both have a minimum of 2 descriptions and 3 headlines. However, on the expanded text ad on the left, those 3 headlines and 2 descriptions, that's all we get. They're kind of anchored in, and you get some more control because of that. However, on the opposite end, on the right-hand side with the responsive search ads, you actually have the choice to fill in up to 15 headlines and 4 descriptions. And what Google does is it dynamically rotates through these headlines and descriptions to curate a customized and fresh ad each time it serves the ad. So it really allows for some consistently fresh ad copy. As a matter of fact, if you filled out all 15 headline paths and all 4 description paths, do you know how many different ad variations you could get? Well, it's actually a crazy number. You can get up to 46,000 different ad variations. Now, I don't care how much time you put to your PPC, there's no way you're going to be able to create 46,000 different ads. So RSAs are a great way to leverage some differentiality within your ad copy here. Now that we're familiar with the anatomy of the two, you're probably wondering which one you'll want to choose. Well, luckily with RSAs and ETAs, you can have your cake and eat it too. It's actually a best practice to have both RSAs and ETAs in an ad group so that you have both variety and control over your ad copy respectively. So you're probably saying, okay, great. Well, I'll start having both RSAs and ETAs in my ad groups, but how do I even start creating them? Well, I want to go over some do's and don'ts of these ads so you're set up for success, whether you're tweaking ads that you already have or starting fresh. So let's get the negative out of the way and start with the don'ts. And no, this image isn't just to shamelessly plug Caitlin's side business as a lawyer. I just
I
created
wish.
yeah. I just created this dummy example ad that shows two things not to do when making search ads. The one noted on the left is keyword stuffing, meaning you don't want to add keywords just for the sake of adding them. I know, we want nice ad relevancy, but adding in keywords this way is just repetitive. Also, on the right, we see our ad preview and how not only are these headlines repetitive, but they don't really go together. Again, you want your headline mix to make sense, regardless of how Google chooses to arrange them. Now that we're familiar with the makeup and differences of these ad types, let's discuss some best practices and end it on a positive as our main takeaway here. You're going to want your number of ads per ad group in a sweet spot of 3 to 5 ads per ad group. So it's kind of a trick question there. This gives Google the ability to dynamically rotate through these ads in your ad group, optimizing to show the best ad possible to match the query as close as it can, while also giving returner viewers fresh ad copy to look at, which brings me to my next point of also wanting at least one RSA mixed into that ad group. Ideally, ad group structure would have 2 ETAs and 1 RSA for a total of 3, or 2 and 2, or 3 and 2, however you really prefer there. Secondly, and I see this come up way too often, so I cannot stress how important it is to fill out every single possible headline and description when you can. This can be time consuming at first, but definitely pays off in the long run for your overall ad performance. And this can be an easy tweak by including keywords you're already bidding on within your ad. But remember, don't just add keywords for the sake of adding them to avoid mistakes like we saw with the keyword stuffing. And to my next point, mismatching headlines and descriptions as well. While you build your ads, ask yourself, would these headlines and descriptions go together if they were just shown alone? Lastly, it's always a good idea to freshen your ad copy regularly so that it doesn't get stale and you're pushing your account onward. Even if you just set aside a half hour once a month or every other month to rework your ad copy, it can really go a long way.
Good. All right, and now it's time to close it out with Facebook. I've been helping advertisers and agencies alike with trying to figure out like the best way to get started on the Facebook network. And after seeing thousands of ads, I have to declare this: video ads are king. Especially because, and you'll see this. I love a good stat. I love a good graph. According to Adobe, shoppers that view videos are 1.81 times more likely to purchase than non-video viewers. And in a time where every penny counts and every campaign counts, and we're trying to get as many people onto the website as possible, having an engaging ad is crucial. And if Facebook is giving us these capabilities to go in and upload videos and have them used within your ad copy, why waste your time? It's time to go ahead and start enabling these. However, don't just put a video ad in your Facebook just because that these are stats that are available. Make sure that you have engaging imagery or videos. Even like as you see here on the right, Allbirds. I actually just bought a pair of Allbirds not too long ago. And it was an ad like this that really got me engaged because I have a standing desk in my office that is currently surrounded by boxes, so I'm not really able to paste too much right now. But when I do, I wear my Allbirds because I'm looking for something that, just like what this video is doing right here, I do that a lot with my feet as I'm on calls because I have a lot of energy, as you guys probably have realized at this point. Here's another thing. Don't push lower funnel actions to upper funnel audiences. So if they don't really know what Allbirds are, maybe it's time to talk about like what your brand does better. Maybe it's trying to like showcase how appealing your shoes are, or maybe customer testimonials. And also, now is the time to take those risks. Remember that people will unknowingly appreciate your ad, but only if it's good, and they will let you know if they don't like it. Now, I'm going to plug WordStream because especially like within Facebook Native, sometimes it can be hard to figure out like what strategy is best or even how to implement these strategies that we're talking about. I like WordStream's approach because it's very simplified, which is what we need nowadays, especially with everything changing around us. We have two different solutions that help you get into the world of video ads. We have a Shutterstock library, so you can go in and use any of our like video Shutterstocks that we have within your ads, even just to test it out until maybe you can create your own video. As well as we have our own little video creation tool, and this almost acts like an animated slideshow. You choose a theme, it's complete with music. We upload, you can upload specific imagery and text, and we'll rotate through them all. That way people will get engaged once they see that moving action on their timeline or Instagram or whatnot. This can especially be helpful if you are like a mom and pop organization. Maybe you don't really have the budget or the time to really go through and create your own videos just yet. Use like these tools that we have available, especially if you want to just like maybe start to dip your toe in the water of video ads. But wait, before we close it out for today, we've given Google a lot of love. We've given Facebook a lot of love. It's actually time for me to talk about my favorite platform and have a little bit of a Bing moment. So Bing, gotta give it some love, especially because like nowadays, like Google and Bing work in harmony, and Google and Facebook work in harmony. So throw Bing into the equation. And you might say, Caitlin, no one uses Bing. And I'm going to say you're wrong. Actually, the US had a Bing market share of 34% from research done in 2017, and that's growing every single year. And I pulled up the United States stats, but over in the UK, you guys are also growing your Bing market share as well. And here's what's really cool about Bing. Bing has features that Google doesn't. A great example is image extensions. I think, Susie, you and I were chatting about image extensions the other day.
Oh, yeah. We were.
Yeah, I love a good image extension, especially like, I mean, I had I think he was like a Greek villa client back in the day. He had beautiful pictures. Every time I got on the phone with him, I just wished I was over in Greece. He had those image extensions on Bing, and we saw so much traffic being driven from people clicking on the image because they want to learn more. As well as you can get started in as little as 10 minutes on the Bing network. The hardest part really is just signing into your Bing account if you forgot what the password is. You'll laugh, but it's definitely tried and true. But you can do something called the Google or the Google import. So if you have campaigns already established in Bing, you can simply just copy and paste them over. Also, Bing helps Facebook and Google. So you might think that Bing just kind of does its own thing. That's not true. Especially because nowadays over 75% of people will abandon your website. So if you leverage Bing along with Facebook and along with Google, you could see an uplift. Also, Bing has different demographics than Google. It usually tends to skew a little bit older. So that's something to think about. If you're in the B2B sphere, definitely go get on Bing. And the reason why is think of all the people who have work computers who aren't allowed to download anything else on their computers. They're probably using the default search engine, which is Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge. They're using Bing without even knowing. As well as if you're like, no, Caitlin, I'm none of those demographics you mentioned. If you've used the Amazon Alexa, you have used Bing probably without even knowing. All right. Let's wrap it up.
Thanks. Yeah, we made it to the end of the webinar, you guys. Great job. You stuck through it with us. But we want to leave you just with some key takeaways before we part. So for Google Ads, please don't forget, never ever lose sight of your overarching PPC goals. And this is something I incorporate even into my consulting calls with clients, is I always ask them, if you could get one thing, just one thing out of your PPC, what would it be? If you identify that and have that as your big picture goal, as your driving factor, as you make all these small tweaks and changes, it can really help you kind of take you to your guiding light, as I like to say. And then going along with that, something I think we talked a lot about today was change and how it's okay to have your account structure ebb and flow along with PPC trends. We talked a lot about how Google and Facebook and Bing are constantly changing. So you need to be agile and have your account be constantly changing too, and that's okay. And that kind of goes hand in hand with my last point of always be learning and be hungry to self-educate on new metrics and different ways that you can leverage new metrics and changes to audit your account and really look at your account with almost like a set of fresh eyes. Okay.
Love it. And with Facebook, the first one, special ads categories. It's time to work with them, not against them. They're not going anywhere, especially because now we're also going to have to start to utilize these best practices within Google as well. And there'll probably be some more information coming from Google in the near future about that. Now is also the time to branch out. Like if your eggs are all in one basket, it's time to spread them out, like diversify, try out new things. Because that way, if like some things haven't worked, at least you know that you tried. And also, it's time to be creative. Clever ad copy can make or break your advertising. Remember, people love a good ad. And I've been screenshotting ads for months at this point because I can really appreciate a good one. So now's the time to try and stand out and try and really establish yourself in the brand that you're advertising within. And also, got to give a shout out to my pal Bing. Just give it a shot. It's very easy to go ahead and do so. There's information about the auto import functionality on our WordStream blog as well. So even if you don't really need to spend like a fair amount of money in Bing, like throw in a couple dollars here and there, let it do its thing. It'll definitely be a little bit more slower moving platform, but at least give it a shot.
Awesome. You ladies are brilliant. I've been at WordStream for 3 years, and even some of that, I was like, what? I attend and host these webinars every month, and I still learn things, so that's awesome. And that's why we also want to wrap it up with your Q&As quickly, and we know we only have a couple minutes, but as we're doing that, I just want to launch our third and final poll of today. And if you are going through this and sat through this presentation and you're like, holy moly, this is way more to handle than I ever thought possible, take us up on this offer. Totally free consultation. You can speak to the experts that are in Google accounts every single day. Totally free. Get some personalized insight, talk to our experts, see how they can come up with a strategy to help your business go through Google and Facebook ads and a slew of other solutions as well. This is just such an awesome time to dive into your metrics and your details for anyone that had maybe an industry specific question on the line. But with 3 minutes left, let me dial it in to 2 key questions. There was tons of questions coming in about RSAs and ETAs. So let me give you a 2-parter. RSAs seem so powerful. So what is the benefit of also incorporating that ETA into your ad group? And then also, when you're saying fill out every single portion of the RSA and ads in general, does that include maximizing your character limit?
Good questions. So I'll tackle the first one first. The benefit of having both is, of course, again, RSAs, each ad is always going to have its own place in the search results. And Caitlin, I'll let you jump in at any point too, but essentially you kind of want a nice balance over control, right? Because with your ETA, whatever you put in there is always going to be what's going to show. With RSAs, you don't necessarily know. You're putting in all these different headlines and descriptions, and you're like, I don't know, Google. You just kind of pick out what, and you never really know what the consumer actually saw. So if you have an RSA that converted, yeah, Google knows that combination worked well, but you don't know on your end what showed. So having both having that variety with RSAs and then having those ETAs to say, okay, I know this wording worked well, this ETA converted, and I want to keep this wording and I want to continue that in my ad copy. And I know it was that because that's the only one that had the chance to show. So I hope that kind of explained it a little bit better. Caitlin, I don't know if you had any feedback on that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what I like to always preach, try and true is like it's all about the amount of control that you want to have.
Yeah. And then for the second question of filling out every portion of the ad, yes, I do mean trying your best to reach those character counts. You want a wordy and a text-heavy ad because with search, that means you're going to take up all that much more space on the page. So your ad's going to be a little bit more bigger. It's going to bring the viewer's eye to it. It's going to include more information and it's going to look complete. When you don't fill out those sections, it's almost kind of noticeable. Yeah, consumers, yeah, they might not know the anatomy of an ad and know, oh, okay, they didn't fill out description too, but it looks a lot smaller and a lot shorter than the other ads. And I know, again, people might not read through all of it, but again, it makes your ad look complete, takes up more space, and gives more information right from the get-go.
Awesome.
So good questions there. Yeah.
Questions are still pouring in, but we are out of time. Caitlin, if you could just give a quick elevator pitch on why B2B marketers can also use Facebook, and then we'll wrap it up. And I will be sure to go through the questions and connect you with someone who can answer any that we didn't get to personally.
Yeah, definitely. So B2B in the world of Facebook can definitely be very tricky. However, there's two main elements that I want you guys to look at. I want you to look at the bottom of the funnel, like those remarketing lists. However, you probably have already gathered email lists in the past, maybe even emails of people who have converted and become clients. What you can do is you can upload those within Facebook and make lookalike audiences off of them as well. So just know, like, the world of Facebook is so expansive, but you can really gather like a little piece of the market. And even though like Facebook won't necessarily be like the biggest piece of your overall marketing puzzle, it'll still be a really important one. So just know that it can always be in the back of your mind when you're discussing Facebook and your B2B marketing strategy.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Again, we still have questions pouring through. People loved your presentation. You're amazing. I hope to get to the questions after the fact and make sure that you're all helped out. And with that, we have to close it out because Susie and Caitlin are busy and they have other clients to tend to and calls to have. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you on our next webinar. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.